Well, hey there, it's Heike Yates, and welcome to another episode of the Pursue Your Spark podcast. Today's guest is from the UK, and you will love her lovely British accent. She's sharing her story, her very personal and inspiring story, living with chronic fatigue since the age of 12. Chronic fatigue is almost a death sentence. There is no cure for chronic fatigue. And she's sharing her story, how she struggled through the medical system and how she made life work around her illness and not the other way around. So be inspired by our guest today, Donna Owens. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to know if you're subscribed to my podcast on iTunes. If you're not, then I want to encourage you to do that right now. I don't want you to miss out on an episode. I will put a link in the show notes so you can subscribe right there. And while you're there, give the show some love and leave a review in the ratings and review section. And write a review. I read all of them. So let's dive into today's interview. Hey there, you're listening to the Pursue Your Spark podcast. I'm your host, Heike Yates. We're here to help you live a healthy, fit, and confident lifestyle with tips, strategies, and interviews. Listen to the most inspiring women and how they dared to live the life they dreamed of and handled roadblocks in their path. Today's guest is Donna Owens. She's a writer, motivational speaker, confidence and life purpose coach, a yogi, a spiritual soul, and a chronic fatigue syndrome warrior. By sharing how she's thriving in her life despite living with chronic fatigue syndrome for 30 years. Today's episode is titled My Inspiring Personal Story, Living with Chronic Fatigue with Donna Owens. Welcome to the show, Donna.
Welcome. Hi. It's
Hi.
so great to be here.
Yeah, from all the way across of the UK.
Absolutely. I would like to say sunny UK, but the UK's got the reputation that it's never sunny and it's cloudy. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. You know what? The years past, I was spent a few days in London, and that was probably the only time, from at least what my girlfriend told me, is that it was sunny. Because I was like, I don't know what these people talk about. It's sunny, pleasant.
Yeah, no, we have a few days. But I think we're already over here talking that summer's already over because we're just pessimistic like that. So never mind.
I know. So Donna, tell us, our listeners, who you are. So we know by now that you live in the UK, but where do you grow up, and a little bit about who you are, what you do, and so forth.
So I live in the southwest of the UK, which is the very pretty Devon area. Lots of countryside and beaches, and basically where everybody in the UK goes for holidays in the summer, and where people retire to when they leave work. So it's a really pretty place in the UK. I'm very lucky to be here. I've lived here all my life. I've moved around. But yeah, I've lived with chronic fatigue since I was 12 years old. I became ill. Mm-hmm. I was a normal child, as you know. I was thriving. I started high school. I was just getting into finding my own identity, I think. I was mixing and finding new people. And when I was 11 and 12, I was hit by a virus, just out of the blue, just a general flu type virus. And I never got better. It ended up being 2 years of misdiagnosed, of not being believed, of not... of hell, basically.
You know, that's what I hear often with chronic fatigue, which is similar symptoms than, for instance, lupus has, or fibromyalgia. And stories that I hear from others where they go, nobody believed me. And
No.
with 12, I'm sure they thought, oh, she's just a 12-year-old.
Oh yeah, we had the doctors saying I was the naughty kid that didn't want to go to school.
Mhm.
I was forced literally from my home with like the welfare officer from school dragged me to school. I was literally forced to go to school. Then the teachers would send me home at lunchtime because I was passing out. I was I was ill. I couldn't stand up. I shouldn't have been in school. So the teachers were telling me one thing, the doctors were telling me another, and the welfare people were just basically threatening my parents and
Huh.
myself, of law enforcement if I didn't go to school.
Oh my goodness.
It, and as a you're a little girl at 12. You sometimes think you're older, but you're scared. You don't know what's happening to your body. Doctors were giving you the tests, or the blood test was coming back negative. It was all fine. It was obviously in my head. They didn't put me through therapy, but they threatened the therapy.
Mhm.
um,
Tell me, tell our listeners, like, symptoms of chronic fatigue. What does it feel like?
Uh, it's There's hundreds of different symptoms, and I don't think there are two people with chronic fatigue that actually have the same sort of symptoms, which I guess that's so hard for the doctors to diagnose. My personal symptoms were extreme muscle fatigue, aches, as though my bones and my joints were like lead. You know, those hooked weights where you just keep
Mhm.
piling on the heavy weights.
Mhm.
So I couldn't walk. I was shuffling. I was housebound for 2 years. I couldn't talk. I couldn't eat properly because obviously your body needs the energy to digest the food.
Mhm.
Couldn't clean my teeth, brush my hair with extreme fatigue. I couldn't retain information. Um, I couldn't remember things. I couldn't hold information. I couldn't hold conversations. I
Mhm.
kept passing out. I was being sick most nights. I kept collapsing. You name it. It's things. It's things that you just can't explain how bad some symptoms can be, because
Mhm.
you just think muscle aches, flu aches. People get tired all the time. It can't be that bad, which is what I always keep getting. But it's like you have run 100 miles an hour straight into a brick wall. That is the only way I could describe the fatigue and the exhaustion.
Okay. Wow. And that already at age 12.
At 12, yeah.
So, so as you did all the tests, so the doctors did all the tests, when did they determine that it was chronic fatigue?
They literally took 2 years to, I think, test me for absolutely every illness under the sun. And when there was absolutely nothing left that it could be, I went to the hospital because I was going every 6 months. And again, it wasn't a proper diagnosis. It was my mum sat there while I was on the bed passing out, just literally saying to the doctor, is this chronic fatigue syndrome? And I remember the doctor going, well, yeah, well, I guess it's there's nothing else that we can say it is otherwise. So we're like, well, thanks for that. And that was it. It was literally, here's your CFS diagnosis. Thanks for coming. Can't do anything about it. Can't help you. Send you on your way. And that's what they did. For 2 years of not knowing what it is, I'd like to say that when you finally get a diagnosis, it's a weight off your mind. But because they turn around and say to you, there's nothing you can do, it's almost pointless. It's like, what is the point?
Mhm.
And yes, it's like a death sentence. You really have, you go to the doctors for support, for help, for hope. And when they can't give it to you, you feel even more isolated than however you feel being in this body that can't do anything.
Yeah. So what happened then? What did let me see. What did your parents say or feel? Or, I mean, I'm a parent and you're a parent. I know
Yes.
you feel helpless, but what did they do then once they knew what was going on?
My mum is quite old-fashioned. She actually went through a phase of, when I was about 13, of not believing me. She believed the professionals, because you believe in the professionals. You that's what they're there for, you, I guess. So there was a bit of family drama on top of everything, where she knew there was something wrong with me, but at the same time, because the doctors were saying there's nothing wrong with your daughter, she ended up kind of going, well, they're saying there's nothing wrong with you, Donna, so what's wrong with you? But when she got the diagnosis, she actually did believe that this wasn't normal. And yes, teenagers sleep a lot, and some are lazy, but to not be able to walk or talk, or to just be sick all night and in tears constantly because of the pain, she knew that wasn't normal. So when I was diagnosed, we were still having problems with the school, because I was being pulled in every direction. And with the hospital's help, I don't know how it happened, but she actually took me out of school.
Okay.
So I could basically recover in my own time, without the added stress of going to school, being sent home, missing out on the schoolwork and everything. And I ended up having a private tutor a couple of mornings a week, just to try and keep my mind active, I suppose, because you struggle. I couldn't write. My home tutor had to write my answers for me, because it felt like my hand was turning to stone with each sentence, and it still does.
Yeah.
But it was a time of my life where I guess I had the choice at 14 to either go, my life is over, or how am I going to live despite my illness? And I chose the latter. I don't eaten.
Yep. So what happened then? So you somehow struggled through school.
I didn't take any GCSEs, which is what's over in the UK. So our final exams. And because I wasn't well enough, there was just no point in putting my health through it. So again, I was told that nothing would come of me, because I've got no qualifications, and I'm obviously poorly, and I don't have all this energy, so therefore I'm not going to have a normal life. I'm not going to ever get better. This is how it's always going to be. And you're not going to be anybody in your life because of it, and because of not having the qualifications to go and get a job. And it's so hard when adults pressure you into fitting in with the norm, I guess, and something snapped in me, because at the time I was into makeup, and it kept me sane. I think you always have to have a focus, and that you have to have some sort of light at the end of the tunnel to keep you going through your bad days, and makeup was mine. And I turned around to everybody and I said, I am going to be a makeup artist. And of course, that is the worst possible job that anybody with chronic fatigue could have. It's standing, it's long hours, it's traveling. But I was determined to prove to everybody that despite having no GCSEs and living with a chronic illness, that I was going to go after my dreams and be that successful makeup artist.
How old were you then? 18, 19?
I was 16.
Okay.
I ended up managing going to college. Um, and I was still living with chronic fatigue. I had to find a way that fitted studying, working, and living with chronic fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
I had to find my own way, and that's hard because I think so many people try to go down the normal route of forcing themselves into life and into work and into the mainstream modern way of living.
Yeah.
Um, and when I was 16, I knew that I was never going to do that because every time I pushed my body, every time I tried to do, I guess, normal living, I would be set back. I would be back to housebound, bedbound, and ill again.
You took on your career as a makeup artist.
I did.
And and so you travel? What happened there?
I think I learned to balance illness and work. I worked for myself. I never got a job. I always, from 19, when I qualified, I worked for myself because I could fit my own working hours
Mhm.
around my illness. And slowly over time, I managed to live and have a baby. And even though I was still living with chronic fatigue, it was very mild.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I was that successful makeup artist for nearly about over a decade until 2016 when I was hit out of the blue with the biggest chronic fatigue syndrome um, relapse ever.
Wow. What do you think triggered that? Or is that we don't know?
I think it was a mix of everything. I think it was over pushing my body and its limits. For a while, I think I forgot I had chronic fatigue and I was living it up. I was walking, I was trying to do everything, I was trying to be healthy and normal and work lots. And it's almost like with people with chronic fatigue syndrome, instead of when you get in a routine, you get stronger and you get better at things. With chronic fatigue, the more you do, the less energy you seem to just dwindle and it just gets eaten up.
Mhm.
So I think at that time in 2016, I just overdid it, went out one weekend and came back and I was back to housebound, bedridden, not walking, not talking, not being able to do anything.
I
And my life changed drastically.
Let me ask you, when you had your daughter, Molly, how did you manage raising a daughter with chronic fatigue?
Oh, you know how they say you have to fit around your baby?
Hmm.
Yeah. And find a routine around your baby and your child.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't happen with chronic fatigue. You actually have to try and fit your baby around the illness.
Huh.
Uh, and it was hard. I really do pull my heart out where I see people that do have quite bad chronic fatigue and then have newborn babies. I was quite lucky that I had very mild chronic fatigue when I had Molly. But I was bedbound for the first 5 months of pregnancy because
Okay.
of chronic fatigue. Um, And when she was born, I think it was just adrenaline for the first 6 months. And then you just get in a routine. But yeah, you do have to fit a child around your illness. So there was lots of DVT dines and quiet nights. And I was never the parent to be obviously running around in the park. That was dad's job. I was the arty parent where, you know, we would sit down and do little jigsaws and drawings and paintings and just napping and making sure she napped with me. uh,
Yeah, I can see
it's
that.
hard.
No matter how you look at this, Donna, I think I did that too. Most mothers, if they can, they do that. It's like nap time. Everybody goes to bed.
Yeah, I'm still doing that now.
So when you had your relapse, let's go back to 2016. Molly was a huge support for you. You shared with me.
Yeah, she was a teenager, so she didn't really need me as much as what a young child would do. It was hard for her, you know. I mean, every child to see their mum mainly in bed all the time, it's got to be hard and worrying as well, you know.
Yeah.
But she was brilliant. She made the cups of teas. She helped me. We had a few arguments, you know, where she thought I was, you know, haven't done anything all day and wanted to do things that my body just couldn't do.
Yeah.
I felt guilty. The guilt of not being able to take her out or go and do things with her ate me up so badly. You know, the parents, and you see other parents taking them out on holidays or days out, having fun to theme parks and things, and you just go, I'll never be able to, because I can't. It's physically impossible for me to push my body through family days out and outings and things.
Yeah, I can see that. And you guys have an amazing relationship, but the little bit I got to see of her.
Yes, the waving hand of yeah, no, she's like a sister and a bestie now. We have so much fun. I've slowly come out of the 3-year relapse, so I'm finding myself again, and I still have to be steady. I still have to, you know, at the end of the day, I will always have chronic fatigue for the rest of my life. So I can either dwell on it and mope about it, or I can just embrace all the good days, all the memories, plan things, and live for the good times.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I need to rest, when I have to have downtime, it's just like putting your phone into to recharge, you know.
While going through all this, you actually managed to write a book called Yoga, My Bed, and ME. Tell us more about it.
Well, when I was literally put on my back with ME, or chronic fatigue syndrome, in 2016, I knew it was the perfect time to write a book about my story and about the yoga that helped me, because, as I mentioned, the muscle pains and the aches that I had as a teenager, they kept me up every night in tears. And the only thing that would help was just doing gentle yoga stretches on my bed. Obviously, I couldn't do normal yoga or fitness yoga because of my illness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the stretching, just the holding, the releasing of the tension of the muscles were just a life changer for me. And when I was ill in 2016, I noticed so many other people. I connected to so many other chronic fatigue warriors who also was trying normal yoga, and they were becoming worse from doing yoga, because you tend to think yoga's healthy, it's good for you, it's the most amazing thing in the world. But they were doing the wrong type of yoga for their illness.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to write a book, share my story, because it's such an isolating illness, and also put together 19 little yoga poses that people with chronic fatigue syndrome can do while they're on their bed. So it actually saves their energy, but also you get the benefits of releasing the tension to help prevent more fatigue.
That's such a brilliant idea.
Yeah, people, you know, there's there's restorative yoga. There's so many types of different yoga. And as a teenager, I couldn't do normal yoga. I couldn't do routines. It was literally just picking a pose and cuddling a pillow and holding it for maybe 20 minutes, maybe 2 hours, just so I got some relief from all the pain and the muscle aches. It calmed my mind. It just helped me just have that breather space for a little while, that I could relax and everything was okay. When you've got muscle aches and you've got muscle fatigue, and when obviously you live with chronic fatigue, your mind is full of anger and guilt and frustrations and sadness. And when we got those emotions constantly running through our heads, we tense our body up and our muscles get tense, and then we get more pains and aches because we're holding tension in our body. So stretching out as and when you need, no yoga mat, no routine, nothing. It is literally just, where do I ache? Here's a pose for that ache. I'm just going to stretch out on my bed and do the pose. And that's what yoga's all about, listening to your body and carrying out as and when you need.
Yeah, such a brilliant idea to find a solution again and saying, okay, I can't do yoga the normal way. I just do it the way that works for me.
Absolutely.
Which is part of your mantra, is living a Zen lifestyle and fitting your illness, not the other way around. So life is fitting, your illness fits into life and not life fits you.
Yeah, my life is, I don't like the normal fast-paced living. I can't do the fast-paced living. And so many people, I get they want to get better. I get they want recovery. But when you're told there's nothing you can do, or there's nothing for chronic fatigue, we tend to push and force our limits into a box that we just can't fit in. So it's almost like there's no way ever I will ever be that person that will get up Monday to Friday and work 9 till 5 and have a family and be able to go out and do things at the weekend and socialize and go on holidays and do absolutely everything. Once I accepted that, I then learned to live on my own terms, in the slow lane, calm. I'll work when I can. I'll find ways of earning money with doing things that I love, that again fits in with my illness. And yeah, it's just try not to fit yourself into a box that you just never going to fit into.
You shared, I think, a story with me that highlighted that statement you just made with the friend that keeps calling you.
Oh, yeah. You have to sometimes, have to be selfish to heal. And that means saying no to things that drain your energy. And sometimes that's hard because you have obviously children and family, and people have expectations of you, whether or not you're ill or not. So phone calls, I don't take hardly any phone calls because they drain me. A 20-minute phone call could actually put me in bed for the next couple of days with migraine, sore throat, and flu type symptoms, the shakes and not being able to talk or eat, because it's so energy draining. So my phone is always on silent. I say no to people just turning up on my door. I have to get people to literally book in with me. I have to book my friends in for coffee dates because I have to still pace around. I have to rest before and I have to rest sort of after. And I always get the exhaustion hit sort of like 24 hours later. So something that I do on a Tuesday would hit me on a Thursday. So therefore, I have to book and adapt everything in my life around this illness.
And I think that's hard for people that don't feel that or see how sick you are or don't understand your sickness. That's probably a better way to voice it, to say, why doesn't she take my call? I'm going to call her and she never
That's
answers
the
the
call.
phone.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. It's, they do. I think a lot of people with chronic fatigue syndrome, when you are down and exhausted, nobody sees you. Nobody sees how bad you are. Nobody, you don't want people to see how bad you are. You only show the good parts. And obviously then they just don't see the down and out parts. I think there has only been 3 people in my life that I've actually opened up and gone, this is me on my worst days. And that's obviously my mum, Molly, and one of my ex-boyfriends. They knew as soon as the first sort of symptom comes on, it shows in my face, it shows in my eyes, I start slurring my words. And it's only been 3 people, and obviously I've seen so many people in my lifetime, and so many people know me, and I've got quite a few friends, but it's only been 3 people that actually can tell that first sign of going, you're struggling.
Yeah. But it's also, I mean, being ill, you don't want to go around and just talk about your illness because you're like, I have chronic fatigue. I know I'm going to have it forever. Let's talk about the football game or let's cook a meal or fun
Yeah.
things. Because that's what you said. Your story is about inspiring others on their healing journey. And
Yes, it's, I think back in the 90s when there was no social media, there was no mobile phones, there was no internet. It was just your healing, and TV, books, or doing something, or makeup, or hobbies. It wasn't thrown in your face all the time about how bad this illness is, that you're never going to get better. And I really did believe that the whole ignorance is bliss thing helped my healing. It helped me kind of have that mindset of going, yep, this is what I've got. Yes, it's limiting. Yes, it's frustrating. It's saddening. It's depressing sometimes. But I still have a life to live. I still don't want to get to the end of my days and have regrets of something that I wanted to do, but I didn't do it because of this illness or fears. Yeah, you still have to try and live, because you definitely always regret the things that you didn't do more than the things you did do.
yeah, and like you said, you sometimes can't, but I hope our listeners feel the same that I feel, that the hope that you give them and the inspiration that
Yeah,
that we all have something to heal from.
absolutely.
Yeah.
There's When you're down and out with chronic fatigue, and you will have this, it's a cycle of you know ups and downs.
Yeah.
It's so unpredictable. um when you're down, it means to surrender and to rest. Your body really does need that time out to recharge. And we see resting as weakness, because we are brought up to believe that when you're an adult, you're meant to do all these things and work 24/7 and have the family and everything. And no one's a superhero. Everyone gets tired, I know, but when you have chronic fatigue syndrome, you have to just surrender. You have to unplug. You have to just rest. And sometimes that could mean resting for a week or 2 months or 6 months. But there is always that time when you actually have given in, rested, looked after yourself, done your self care, and one day you wake up and you feel a little bit brighter. It always happens, but you will never feel it if you keep pushing past your limits and pushing through your mind, because our ego really does want to deny it or push through things or try to be something that we're not.
Yeah. And as life is fitting in with you, you have been writing another book. So tell us about it.
So as we said, everyone is healing and surrendering. And when we are frustrated with healing, with our illnesses, I love mantras or affirmations. They get me through my days, the dark times, anxiety attacks, panic attacks. I love affirmations. And it helps to rewire your brain, to reprogram what you think or how you think about yourself. So my new book is literally just 365 days of healing mantras, where it's a little bedside book where they can just open up a page and read a mantra, feel it, and feel that they're not alone, to feel that little bit of positivity in their day, to know that it's okay not to be okay, to know that, you know, there's a good day, but it's okay to have bad days, to actually give themselves permission to rest if they really need it, if that's what they want. So I'm excited because I say mantras about 50,000 times a day.
That's awesome. So you have the perfect complement to your yoga. You have yoga on my bed and Emmy, and then you have mantras right there.
Right, so they can basically practice the yoga poses on their bed while saying a mantra from my mantra book. It's perfect.
It's absolutely perfect. It's brilliant. You're such a smart woman.
I love writing, and I think, you know, a lot of people with chronic fatigue syndromes can't read due to exhaustions, and I was kind of one of them. So I've made the books really simple. They are your bedside companions. The yoga book, I wish was out back in the 90s, because I wish I had this book to just reach over at 2 o'clock in the morning, to flick through, find a pose, ease my aching legs, and obviously, you know, just relax and know that somebody else has been through this and got over the other side.
Yeah. Donna, where can they get your books?
So my books are available on all Amazon websites, both in paperback and Kindle.
Mm-hmm. And we'll put a link. We'll put a link in the show notes so people can get directly to you.
Yeah, so it's on Amazon.com, obviously for the Americans, and co.uk for the UK. So Amazon is your best friend for getting my books. For more yoga videos, you can check out the yogamybedandme.com, where I have some videos of yoga in bed, because some people like a routine. So they can check that out. And then all my other information is on my brand new website, which is Donna.Owens. Yeah, Donna.Owens.com. That sounds funny when I say that, but I know what I mean.
It was cute. You were a little hesitant. I was like, yep, that's okay.
It's Donna.Owens.com.
Well, how about Instagram, Facebook?
Facebook is Yoga My Bed and Me, and my Instagram is Donna.Owens80. So I'm definitely an Instagram girl more than Facebook, I'm afraid. But I love social media. I love hearing the stories. I love connecting. I love sharing what helps me, it's just inspiring and connecting. People are so lost and so in the dark with this illness that I want to be that sort of shining light that they can come to.
Yeah. Donna, what about your podcast? Is that still up and running?
It's still going. I do have a Healing Me podcast. It's all about inspiring. It's a weekly podcast. And I just go through about being positive and going through growth and acceptance and forgiveness and everything, inner healing that will help them calm their mental and emotional state, because emotionally and mentally it's exhausting with this illness.
Yeah.
And when you are using up so much mental and emotional energy, you can't rest properly, you can't physically rest, and you're just stuck in this cycle of exhaustion. So I'm hoping the Healing Me podcast will just help them with meditations and mantras and inner healing to just calm their mental and emotional energy so that they can actually physically heal and rest.
Yeah. Donna, thank you so much for your time and your expertise today for
Thank
this
you
interview.
for having me.
It's so important that we know that we're not alone, that there's other people out there, there are similar situations, and that we can reach out to these people and they can come to us, or in this case to you, for CV and
Absolutely.
and get help, inspiration, and just live a better life.
Absolutely. It's such an isolating illness. And when we hold each other up, when we support each other on the journey, we can move mountains. So,
Yeah. So listeners, we'd love to reach out to us. You got our handles. It's Donna.Owens80 on Instagram, and it's the Pursue Your Spark podcast, also on Instagram. Let us know what you thought about today's show. If there's anything that was in particular helpful, let us both know. Reach out with questions to Donna and to get a hand on her Yoga My Bed and ME and her mantra book. And all we can say is thanks again. Now Donna needs to rest.
yeah, I'm going to go for tea and cake because I'm British.
Ooh, yummy. So thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
If you're somebody with chronic fatigue, reach out to Donna, connect with her on social, get to know each other, and support each other on your journey. If you know somebody with chronic fatigue syndrome, send them this podcast so you share the knowledge that Donna has shared with us in her story. Go get her books and learn how you can do yoga in bed. Who knew there was such a thing? So thank you for being here today. And I was so excited to share this amazing interview with you today. And I'll see you next time on the Pursue Your Spark podcast. Until next time, ciao.